It's Tuesday. This is Trekland HQ version 2, and we are finally live. Hey, are they fake or are we fake? Simple question. Today on Trekland Tuesdays Live, number 435. With me, Dr. Trek Larry Nemechek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 and Trekland Treks. Yes, your own unique away mission to real Star Trek locations, your choice, with Dr. Trek as your concierge guide and trip planner, way ahead of time. Check it out. It's going to be an awesome year. It's the 60th anniversary. What a great time to either find yourself in LA or be here and have a day to spend with me checking out and living for real some real life away missions. Awesome time. Hey, everybody, are you welcome? Especially this week for a little sanity, clarity, and a bigger picture in all things Star Trek? Well, I hope so, because today I'm going to, it's a little bit of a, oh, and look at this. Let's just do this. Did not change my, ignore the title. We'll fix it. Yes, today is, are they fake or are we fake Star Trek? And listen, before I dive into this big time and explain what the hell I'm talking about, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I can see everybody starting to populate now in the chat. Hey, it's an interesting time for Star Trek. I feel like we're gaining a lot of fans, actually. And if not, maybe we're gaining some involvement. I feel like maybe some of the lurkers and longtime new fans are switching over to raising their hand and showing up in different spaces. I don't know. It's just a wild guess of mine. But if that's true of you, welcome. Here's welcome to all, as well as to all our veterans. And yeah, I say that because I'm here. It will be 9 years here in a couple months. But so many of our veterans are here. They know, go to the chat. If you're new to Trekland Tuesdays Live, welcome. You're finding your way to the chat, I hope. And before I say any more, I hope you're coming to us on YouTube. I do still multi-stream because it was such a hot thing to do in the pandemic. But if you're on YouTube, that's the best place to see all the comments. If you're on Facebook, you're only going to see the Facebook comments. On YouTube or Twitch, you'll see everything. You'll get it where everyone's coming from. And also on YouTube, you have the ability to take advantage of this being monetized with a super chat. And you can throw a little silver my way. That's always very much appreciated. I had the Patreons and super chats as a way to monetize this at all. See, no commercials, no nothing. So I do appreciate that. It helps out a lot, actually, when it piles up, when it stacks up eventually. But yes, find your way to the chat. Hey, if you are new this week, today, introduce yourself if you would. Let us know where you're coming from. How's the weather? How's the trek there? I do it this time of day so we can have Europeans involved and folks from all around the globe. We even have Aussies. Folks from Eastern Asia come in every once in a while. But it is global. It's a great way to keep in touch with the world. It's a great way to slap American fans around and remind them that they're not the only ones trekking and with Trek issues with what might be happening under the management. But yes, and look, if you're just lurking, if this is your first time and you're a little shy, that is totally fine. Totally fine. Just sit back and enjoy, and maybe you'll feel like popping off at some point. I am going to talk about a little topic here, a little theme, a little soapbox, but I will backtrack and go through all the chat. I'm not ignoring the chat just because we've moved on here for a few minutes. I'll take a mini break midway through and then come back and dive into the chat. We back scroll, as we say here, and drop the needle and back scroll and go. So I really am glad that you're here. It's a wild time. We went through 2 or 3 or 4 months of just treading water with Star Trek. And now things seem like the floodgates are open, and we're in one of those times when half of the discussion is about the show and half the discussion is about the discussion. But this is modern Star Trek, I guess. And that's the price we pay for this immediate social media that we have here. Oh, and listen. if you're watching this later on YouTube, welcome. Same as everyone. You can comment in the comments, and I wish you would. These are hot times. I've had more comment reaction on my YouTube videos, especially the edited ones, when it's just the sermon. These days, and this season has really spiked with the coming of Starfleet Academy. So yes, leave a comment there. And even if you were in the live show and you want to come back around, a lot of people do that and leave a fresh comment in the comments. Please do that. And I try to read them. You'll see I get in. It may take me 2 or 3 days, but I do come back around and talk about the comments here. That, and also with Second Opinion, which is my reaction show that's out Saturday, Sunday. We let the dust settle just a couple of days on all the new Treks and all the new Trek reaction. So check that out, a double shout out, which I don't promote Second Opinion near as much. And it has spiked and taken off. What am I talking about, gang? I am talking about this thing that I hate being taken advantage of. Now, like, fool me once in 2017 when we all got whipsawed by the sudden explosion of social media in a very negative, non-Star Trek-y feeling way toward Discovery. And apparently in the wave of the flood of social media, nuance gets lost, right? And I say this, and I'm going to say this, is the danger of having someone yell at me. But even with something as heinous as, say, the sexual abuses that were exposed by the Me Too movement, #MeToo, there still was a long spectrum. This notion of a spectrum applies to so many things. When it's not just black and white, and yet not apologetic for gray, just a matter of a spectrum, where you have the most egregious abusers on one end, and you have people, not to excuse their thing, but there definitely is a matter of scale. Same reason we have different degrees of when one person kills another person. Is it first degree murder, or is it self-defense? Is it homicide? Is it, where your own mistakes caused the murder? It wasn't intentional. What is that called? Unintentional homicide. But you have a whole rift of, I know I'm talking about murder and sexual assault here. Fandom is the same way. No. Sometimes the nuance gets lost. And what I'm talking about here is the reaction to Discovery was all the way from people with legitimate complaints minorly to people with legitimate complaints majorly to people who suddenly discovered the new industry of negativity magnetism called the algorithm of social media, all the way to people who were, I'm convinced, at least 4 or 5 people, trying to undermine the social harmony of the United States and Western civilization. All the way through that thing. And lo and behold, that's back with this, and apparently people have forgotten that guidebook, that playbook. Now, that's what my topic is today, but let me just backtrack a moment. Because the inherent goodness of almost all Star Trek and Star Trek fandom is still a factor. It's still apparent. And it's best of all when you get out behind your phone, get out from behind your desktop, your laptop, and get out with real people. And just as a quick sidebar here, I got into LA Friday night, Yuri's night, not the event, but a thank you for Yuri's night volunteers, and a special thanks for some of us that were helping out on another level. The Academy Museum, if you're in LA, the Academy Museum is running 6 weeks of films on Friday night. I think 2 or 3 of them have sold out. See the sci-fi space movies and what they had to say about science and our place in the world and our future and our look inwards at ourselves and humanity, as well as looking outward toward aliens in space. And they led off the 6 weeks with a screening, big screen, of Star Trek 4. Yes. And the Yuri's Night leadership chose to use that as a thank you for some of us that had helped with Yuri's Night last year. And Yuri's Night will be back in April this year, somewhere close to April 4th, the anniversary of Yuri Gagarin's flight as the first person in space, first human in space. And it's a wonderful night for mixing STEAM sciences with the arts and everybody's excited about space, factually or fictionally or both, can get together and share. Speakers, celebrities, a lot of vendors and industrial representatives. It's an amazing event, and it started here, spreading around the world. And this was a thank you for people who'd helped last year in kind of a scrambly year. But that's why I was there, and it was a special night and got to see a lot of folks. George Takei was the pre-screening guest, and it was great to see George. One of the reasons that, yes, we're celebrating the 60th is because the years are passing for all of our original series heroes, and the ability to hear them live. And how I wish we could still be hearing Dee and even Jimmy live, much less Leonard. So, and Nichelle, and Majel, and Gene, and Bob Justman. Okay, Dorothy Fontana. Now, some of them had a different longevity than others for fans to be able to hear live, much less interviewers to record yet more archival material. All of that said, it was incredible to see George there. And it was incredible to see the turnout, the professional Star Trek people who were there for that evening, because they might be professionals in the industry, but they were there. Getting to meet Ralph Winter again. I'm still working on him, who produced the Harve Bennett movies and 6 after Star Trek, from 3 onward. Yeah, Michael Giacchino. I don't mean to name drop here, but a lot of fans who were there. Who my God, Ted Sullivan, who worked on the early Discoveries. I'm going to leave people out here, and Rod and Bonnie, who were guests of Yuri's Night, and Bonnie Gordon, and just seeing that. But also, yes, a lot of our local fans. Some people came in from out of town, but a lot of local fandom was there. The Angelus, the LAOA team, the Fleet chapters. A lot of folks were there. It was good to see fandom too, but just the whole vibe of the thing. And yes, Academy came up a few times, but it was just good to see. And of course, just seeing Star Trek 4 on a big screen again. The last time I saw Star Trek 4 on a big screen may well have been the 1991 Film Festival of replaying all the older films in different theaters around the country. Yeah. I think we had to go to Dallas to see it from Oklahoma City. That may have been the last time I saw it on a big screen. And I saw, did you know there's a woman that stumbles when the kidney old lady comes out and says, I have a kidney, her second appearance. And she's with a clump of people as the doctors are running the other way in their green smocks. There's a woman running in the group in front of her wheelchair who almost stumbles because the wheelchair wheel runs into her, and she kind of does this. I was like, oh my God, I'd never seen that before on a small screen. Never noticed that before. And of course, Better Half says, you never noticed that before? Anyway, it was just a back to basics roots kind of night. And when you're in the situation like that, when you get to a Trek event like that, that's what you want to, it's both a great nostalgia trip and a great reaffirmation of what you loved about something in the first place, but it's also a great affirmation to be around live bodies, not on a screen, and talk and get that vibe. Because not that it dominated the evening discussion, but Academy came up many times. And you know what? People had actual opinions, from love down to, I don't know. People just did not like it. But the unifying theme here is that whatever someone thought, they could tell me why. They could give me a reason. And I thought, oh, look, it's a human being in front of me. It's a human being that's here to see Star Trek 4, hear George Takei talk, and if they don't like it, that's fine. If they have a problem, or if they have a problem with part, but they're, if it's a mixed review, they're there, and that's fine. That's all you can ask. That's all you can ask of anything. And truth be told, no one looks at TNG or DS9 original series, and nobody that's I don't know that I know. Of course, you can always point out the clunker episodes, but even aspects that and even if it's something that hasn't held up well over time, okay, even. I'm thinking of a line from Discovery about Elon Musk Jr. High, talk about not holding up over time. Although my headcanon is that that's a descendant who did something awesome for humanity and culture and the galaxy that redeems the name. And that's who Tilly's middle school is named for, the descendant that cleaned up the family name. But I digress. So it brought me back, the whole evening, Friday evening, brought me back around to this wild situation we're in now with the online reaction and people puzzled by the online reaction. I literally got a text this morning that I haven't answered from a good friend, and the Portal folks will know him. Steve D'Erico was a security set guard at Paramount from midway Voyager through the end of Enterprise. In fact, he only retired a few years ago. He was still working during the May 20th event before, well, my gosh, it's been 10 years now. Eek. He was still working close to retirement 10 years ago, and saw him on the lot working the night of the Star Trek Beyond event at Paramount. And he texted me this morning and said, "Hi, Larry, it's Steve. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Any inside info about the huge negative response to Academy?" just as a random moment here. And again, I almost feel badly for the show. Not really. They're getting plenty of it. They're doing all the launch promos still. They're turning up on talk shows, mainstream talk shows, as well as all the, our genre press and everything. Talking about the show. Of course, they're putting Holly Hunter and Paul Giamatti out there. And as we're figuring out that Paul Giamatti, as was said, but it may have gone right past a lot of people, he's not in every episode. In fact, they midway through made a decision to bring him back because it went so well for the pilot. But the thing that keeps bugging me is people are baffled by the, I'll say, and treating it nicely, critical reviews. A lot of this is, again, a lot of it's just people who realize that negativity, the crash by the side of the highway gets more people turning heads than traffic that flows along normally. It's the train wreck, car wreck mentality of negative algorithm drives review. Even if you don't even read the whole piece, clicking over or 15 or 10 seconds viewing a page, and that's all whoever is collecting the clickbait cash needs to fulfill that. And I say all that. Yes, there's that crassness. And then there's people, again, this spectrum, people that have their critical reaction and people who are disappointed. And that's fine. That's a reflection of where they're coming from. It's a reflection of what Star Trek's meant to them, where they came to Star Trek, how long they've been with Star Trek. So, but if that's an actual human reaction, fine. And if I actually had a human conversation with them, it might chip away some of the corners. I've had a couple of those. If I feel like the person on the other end of the conversation, and I have a moment, is a real human being who's struggling to understand something, like Steve's text here, sure. Wherever it feels like they're coming from. And believe me, folks, there's lots of people out. You see them. There's lots of people in threads who are genuinely thrown. There's a lot of people that never got the memo that Discovery went to the 30. I think that's part of it. And I'm just deciding this. I think there's a lot of people that gave up on Discovery, never heard of the 32nd century jump, and they're confused because, well, they're not walking around in metal suits with, it looks recognizably enough like a Star Trek they've always seen that they didn't get the memo they're in the 32nd century. And it takes a while to drift in. Maybe so. And some of their complaints and critiques are sincerely just not coming from a place where they've got the memo. They're not on the same page with everybody. So look, I am not a polling organization. I get frustrated when I have these ideas and theories and I want to try to test them out. And I have limited means here. I can't do a nationwide poll I can't plunge in. Even if I had the money, the logistics, what would that look like right now? And guys, I don't know if you've heard this, but online fandom is not actually fandom. It's a subset of people who spend time online. And whether they're on every hour constantly or they get on once a week still. They get on their Facebook once a week, but they're watching Star Trek and they're buying action figures and books and comics. And a lot of them are still raising their kids or even their grandkids or their nieces and nephews. So it's frustrating to me. I just want to line up about 4 million people and say, okay, let's just get this out of the way early. Of course, if we could do that, we could do things like, I don't know, choose our elected leaders better. But simple majority with a simple, decent pie. So yes, we have limitations. And I want to say this. Currently, if you're wondering why you hadn't had an email, if you've been on my list for, 47 months, we've had an issue with MailChimp, and I'm about to change. So right now, email is not the great way I could do one of my old school flash surveys. So now I'm at the mercy of the socials. And last night, if you want to go if you're in on my Instagram or you're in on my still Twitter X, if you want to go right now and vote on my last post or one of my last tweets, Blue Sky, unfortunately, and Facebook on your business account don't let you do polls. Blue Sky hasn't added it yet, and Facebook took it away. I have to be on my mundane boring page, and I'm not quite ready to unleash a Trek poll on my mundane boring personal page and burden family and old high school friends and things with that. But if you want to go to my Instagram, if you're not, hey, please join. Instagram and Twitter have this very rough, very, whatever poll. I put this question to people on Larry's Trekland Facebook and on Blue Sky. Basically said, if you're a human, no bots need apply. If you're a human, and if you've actually watched the episode, not if you watched 3 90-second trailers in January and you're still harping on Trek because of that, or the tsunami of negativity reviews that you read. And thank you for contributing to their to their algorithm. If you saw that, yeah, and whatever, if that affected your decision or whatever, I'm trying to get a handle here on how much of what we see, as Steve was just asking, how much of what we see are real people reacting real. And look, I've had actual humans in my pages talk about being thrown, being confused, and just not happy. And a lot of people are honest and say, look, college humor is not for me. And I'm either sitting through it because I like to see the adults, or they say, it's not enough for me. I'll get my Trek elsewhere. And some of them even say, it's not a thing about modern Trek. It's not a thing about Kurtzman Trek. It's just that show. And that's good. As long as it's a human being on the other end of those keystrokes, it's fine. Or that vocal recorder, it's fine. I just wanted to have a metric. Again, I don't have a degree in statistics here. I'm not running a polling company. And the thing you've got to go, which is so laughable because it turns up in politics all the time, or even just somebody running an ad and they want to make a point. Your social media audience, if you're having a real poll according to polling science and statistics, you need a error factor. You need to control for variables, a samples. You can't just have that's called a straw poll otherwise. And that's fine. If you call it a straw poll, fine. And you know what? That's what I've done here. Last night, I did this across 4 platforms. 2 of them could actually be quasi-resembling metrics. The other 2, stupid me, I just said, rate it from 1 to 10, which of course no one ever does. Everybody has to write paragraphs. I just wanted numbers, and some people wrote numbers in their paragraphs. So all I can really do is, if you're curious, I haven't even got to read the ball. I wouldn't say that it blew up overnight and went viral, but there's dozens and dozens and dozens across my 4 platforms here that we're mainly doing. Instagram, Twitter X, Blue Sky, and Larry's Trekland Facebook. But I will say this, we have metrics such as it is with a couple. Can I just share this with you at the moment? There's lots of good little testimonies. And people are saying, what's interesting is I have metrics-ish for 2 of them. I don't for the others, but there's lots of feedback coming in. Here's now again, here's also, this is a little revealing about the nature of the platforms and who's there. But my basic question was, when I was able to ask apples to apples on 2 platforms, I said, it's crazy to try this, but who's a real human fan out there, talking to the audience here? I'm on Twitter. Who's a real human fan who has actually watched episodes of Starfleet Academy? And by that I meant not little trailers, not little bits. I actually watched the entire episode. And you're human. And if so, can you rank your opinion of the evolving state with the choice below? And by evolving, I mean you didn't just watch the pilot. You've actually been watching along the way. And rank your opinion. I start with numbers. You can't do 10 options. So it couldn't be a purely numerical. In this flawed algorithm, you couldn't do so I just did 4 options. I've loved it since episode 1. It's gotten better, implying that it was, but each week I've seen improvement. Someone says, I am watching, but I have problems. And then the 4th one is, it's getting worse. I stopped. So maybe that person didn't see all 4, but I'm going to try. And again, I said, this is the honor system, right? I'm not verifying demographics here. Someone says they've watched all of them and really they just left in a huff halfway through episode 1. I have no way to know, but I'm going to trust them on this. I did the same thing on Instagram. On the other 2 where I didn't have a polling situation, I just said rank it from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. So on Facebook and Blue Sky, people just were writing, but they didn't just write numbers, they wrote whole sentences. But okay. Here where I actually have a polling mechanism, such as it is, and this isn't a ton of, this is like a couple of dozen voting. But just in that raw frame, on Twitter, most people, a third, were saying, I am watching it, but I have problems. Totally human, totally honest. I feel like those are actual humans. The next chunk, it's a tie. A quarter said, it's getting worse, and I stopped. Fair enough. A quarter said, I have loved it since episode 1. And then an eighth said, it's gotten better. But what that means is the first 3 categories are all implying that they're still watching and they have an opinion variously of love to patience to whatever, expectancy. But what that means is basically that 75% of the Twitter responders in my feed are watching, which implies they haven't given up on it. A quarter, 26%. A quarter say it's getting worse or I stopped. Now, getting worse might imply that they're still watching, but that's basically the most negative of the negative. If I'm stipulating that they're still watching the show, it's kind of in a gray area there. But you know what I want? I wanted the bottom. I wanted the least favorable actual human reaction and not just a bland. You can tell. You can tell when you're reading threads and someone says, stupidest Trek since blah, whatever. You know, more Discovery trash. If they just broad brush it's that might not even be a bot and a troll. That might actually be someone that, but it's like if they don't even bother to give you a criticism. I'm still saying my disappointment is in the language. It still feels, and I'm not talking about when they curse. I'm talking about that it's just so, it's of all the Treks, it's the closest to modern day vernacular. And that's disappointing. And I've already headcaned it as a big fad reach back over the millennia, back to the 21st century as a reaction to post-burn emergence. Not unlike the Middle Ages, when the Renaissance started, looked back to the Greeks and Romans and all the architecture and theater and the arts. They got it wrong. They put a filter. They couldn't help but put their own filter on it. But there was this great need to go backwards. And you could say, well, 1,000 years was a lot longer then than it is now. Well, the burn slapped back centuries of progress, apparently, because now we have rich people and we have want, and we have, in this world of Starfleet Academy, there's a lot of disparity that's gone backwards because of the technological shutdowns of the burn. I'm waiting for the show to get into some more of that. Part of that was one layer of why the Klingon episode was so amazing. Vox in excelso. Yes, I can still remember. So that was the reaction on Twitter. My Instagram reaction was interesting in its own right, because it's like the different audience of Instagram and Twitter X. So here on Instagram, my followers, the biggest category by far, the 58% said, and this is more respondents than on Twitter, okay? This is, what is this? This is 50% more replies than on Twitter. 58% said, loved it since episode 1. The next bunch said, 26%, a quarter, said, I'm watching it, but I have problems. 13% said, it's gotten better. and the category of it's getting worse, I stopped watching, 3%. Now, does that mean that Instagram by nature has a happier, dappier audience than X these days after everyone, left X? I'm going to trust that even now, with all the crap around Twitter, and I still call it Twitter out of optimism, even with all the people who have left and all the people that, and it's so rife with opportunity for bots and trolls to be there and show up, that I want to say the people that mess around with little old me's account, and there's lots of bogus. I see them popping up. Yeah, all the time. But even there, people that took the time to do that in the last 12 hours or so. No, in the last 18 hours or so. But there's actual mechanics in a straw poll. They say as much about the platform, I think, as about the question I'm asking. But still, I think it's hysterical that on one hand, the third category here of excitement, not the basement, but the third one is the biggest chunk. Over here, over half are in the I've loved it since episode 1. It's really wacky. And the 3% versus 26% of the it's getting worse, I stopped watching. So again, that seems to track when I was at the Star Trek 4 event. Anytime late. I'm looking forward, by the way, if you're in Los Angeles, I'll be on Saturday. I'll be at Gallifrey 1, the nominal Who convention that's into its 30-something year, 34th year, 35th year. And yeah, it's a Doctor Who convention, but as Sean told me years and years and years ago, hey Larry, Doctor Who fans have more than one interest. So I'll be there, oh my gosh, at 10 a.m. Driving in, 10 a.m. For the Token Trek panel, what I call, with the Benson sisters and James Kerwin and some other folks for the Token Trek panel. Then James and I have a coffee clatch at 2, and at 4 o'clock, we're going to do a Star Trek Doctor Who crossover panel. Not a fictitious story, but like who has appeared on both Doctor Who and Star Trek, and what were the circumstances, and anything beyond even actors, as in comic books, and as in not pro stories, but a famous fanzine story where the original author was ripped off by people commercially printing her story that she did not authorize, much less put up with either maker wanting to send her cease and desist letters. So anyway, if you're headed to Los Angeles Saturday, and you're coming to Galley's not quite as big as, with the downslide of popularity of current Doctor Who, the Gallifrey doesn't sell out like a miniature version of San Diego Comic-Con anymore. So there may still be some tickets available if you're interested. But anyway, if anyone's by there on Saturday, I'll see you. Point being that I'm looking forward to discussion again to see what the reaction to Academy actually looks like in the flesh. And anyone, and the people that say, I love it, I love it, I love it, I'm not, that's fine. That's cool. I'm going to say that's probably of a certain demo. But any kind of nuanced talk is fine. Criticism's fine. I've got my list, as I said. It's the blanket, which is kind of a tell on socials. But for a lot of people who aren't used to deciphering all that, it's still kind of baffling. I'm inviting, if you're following me on any of the platforms that I mentioned, go look at the reactions there too, as kind of hopefully a magnet that's drawn something that's constructive. Because I know, and I could looking at these other two where he wasn't a strict, even a loose, strict meter, but people are writing. I get the sense that, and people taking the time to even list out the 4 episodes so far, and feeling like for the most part, 104, the Klingon show, is like a unified, whatever you thought of the first 3, it seems to be a unifier. And yet, I appreciate honesty. And hey, I'll do a call out here on, Facebook here. Zachary Leroy, he ranked the 4 shows separately as 7, 6, 4.5, and 5.5. And he wishes that 4 had been a later episode to get to know Kaden better before you got this. So instead of a first backstory show, it should have been. Anyway, but I appreciate everyone putting out real reasons. I was kidding about if you want to just have at a glance, these 2 that offer a real poll infrastructure are great. But now there's all kinds of nuance. And it's Star Trek, and people can't help but express themselves. And while that's time consuming, that is also the symbol that, look, they really are human. People took it to heart. And I've got folks who really, really don't like college. They really wish the next Star Trek, if they don't say Legacy or even United for Archer, they're at least honest and real human in saying college is just not for me. Mark here is in German, and he's saying big problem with Academy is it's U.S. college, it's American college tropes, natural for a U.S. show, but my German university experience was very different. So the prank wars and sports are an extra hurdle. We didn't have prank wars either. So, okay. Even with decades of similar U.S. show and films. And then Spy 5 from America says, from my experience, unless you were involved in team sports or part of the Greek system, most U.S. university students didn't experience anything like that either. So, oh gosh, look, we've got communication, and it's my spaces, so it's communication across the waves. People are generally overall, I'm seeing 7s. 6s, 7s, and 8s from people who are giving, or they're averaging their episodes, or they're doing an overall. Some people are giving it 10s. That's cool. This is what I was after, though. I didn't expect 10s, but I knew as hell I didn't expect 0s. And the fact that it's only 4 episodes in, even in a 10-episode season. And that would be equivalent in the 26th episode of your days, season days. That would be equivalent to, oh, look, we're almost half through, 4 down. This storied episode 5 that's coming up in 2 days, we'll be halfway through. It's like if we're at episode 10 of a 26 episode season. What did you feel like watching TNG or DS9 or Voyager 10 episodes in? How did you feel about it by then? I know the absolute amount of time is 4 hours versus 10 hours. But as far as development, the show and the way it's like seen in the big picture. I know I've had a couple of people reacting on one or the other where they were just frustrated. It's a college show. I can't, I'm looking for one in particular because it was very humanly, sci-fi for me. And I know because he does ranks and does podcasts. He says, I hate this show. The only reason I'm watching it is to review it. This is Space Hogwarts 90210, and it's every bit as derivative as that sounds, compounded by terrible writing that has logic bombs riddled throughout. Episode 4 wasted the opportunity to explore an interesting idea for the sake of telling Pollyworth's backstory, which was trite and predictable, and we've seen it hundreds of times before. Well, sci-fi for me, that's spoken as a true reviewer. And only the fact that I've been on your show and we've talked about other Treks, I know you're a real human. And I know that's the kind of reaction some folks are going to have. And you're not what I'm focused on here. I'm talking about the truly, obviously, you can rattle off reasons. And that's all I'm looking for here. I'm just resenting the industrialization of taking advantage of people and trying to stir the narrative. I still feel like you're expressing your opinion and not trying to change the world around you. Unless the strength of your opinions is what sways people. So that's what I'm after here. And it's rough, and this is not accurately scientific at all. But between just the people vaguely kind of ranking themselves on my Trekland Facebook and on Blue Sky, which I wish you'd hurry up and add a poll function, Blue Sky, and then trying to use these very rustic poll mechanisms on Twitter and on Instagram. I don't have an average on the 1 to 10 scale, but I'm seeing, and then watching the differences between the platforms. Yes. And when Discovery first aired, I tried to use the poll mechanism in MailChimp on my emails, just emails, because you go to socials to do any kind of gang, you go to socials to run a poll like I just did. You're not getting anything scientific. It's just a straw. For one thing, it's self-selected. The people who are following you are already skewed. You're not in an open. So I always would caveat it and say, of the people following me who happen to stumble across this in time, because I did it spur of the moment on a 12-hour or a 24-hour basis. Now, I think both of those polls, if you want to go to them, I know the one of them is open for 2 more days. One of them is open for 3 more hours, just a function of how they're built. So if you want to vote, please go ahead. Maybe you'll alter if those things alter by the time the polls run, that's cool. Because here in another couple of days, we're going to be on to the next episode, which has been ballyhooed a lot. And a lot of people are going to love it. And some people are going to be scratching their heads. And it's going to be interesting between the people who watch Star Trek for the Trek content and the people who watch Star Trek Academy and the people who watch Academy for its functionality as a TV structure. I'm just going to be curious, especially after, I'm just curious. And I've talked about the different tones of episode to episode in Second Opinion, and as others have. And I'm just going to be very curious to see the reaction to this episode, which has been ballyhooed already, vague posting live. And there's a lot here, and also a lot that you think you may know what it's completely about. And then I'm just saying, watch until the end, as you will. There's a lot of surprises in here, a lot of things to make you smile. And along the way to getting to some of the smiles, some of these folks who say they're not up for Academy level, age level entertainment might not be there. I'm just going to say, everybody, please watch all the way to the middle, much less all the way to the end. I know everybody is going to come. I can't imagine at least some part of the population is not going to be smiling at least part of the time with this episode. All right? And that's going to be all of my spoilers. I finally watched it last night to get started on Second Opinion this week. I can't wait to see that. Then after that, there's one more episode that the reviewers have had sent to them, screeners. And after the first 6, we'll see. We have heard in the grapevine that Paul Giamatti gets back into the plot later on in the season. We'll see what's going on. Meanwhile, thank you all for indulging me today with a little bit of a late start. I just am frustrated. Whatever the results are, it's fine, but I don't like all this talk in the middle of, I don't like the fog of war, much less the fog of opinions. I just wanted some kind of, even if they're not exact, I wanted to start getting hands around what I feel like I'm seeing once again in real life, which is a lot of people loving Academy and a lot of people not loving it, but they're not stomping on it. And they're watching it. They know it's a series that progresses along. And they might already, within 4 episodes, they have favorites and not so favorites. And they already get the tones that they like. And they already know that it's a young series and it's probably going to evolve, even by the end of its first season, even written as a clump. I just wanted to get my arms around some of that because of people like Steve, who might now just be focusing in and going, what is all the, I know you all know fans who are either they're dismayed or they're just bewildered by how negative the reviews are in a lot of ways. But you go and look at the real reviewers on the tomato meter, and they're up in the 80s, and the popcorn meter is down low because it could be review bombed. And there's nothing you can do about that. It wouldn't be the first time. So you want to say that and the IMDb scale are been bombed? How do you measure whether it's been bombed or not? See, this is where we go, because those are known metrics that are out there. And may I say, your last call to action here, if you feel that Academy is a 7 or a 6, well, that's a way hell of a lot higher than the current fan vote meter is on either IMDb or Popcorn on Rotten Tomatoes, RottenTomatoes.com. So whether you want to give it a 10 or an 8 or a 7 or a 5, would you go over and vote if you're not if you don't do that normally? That's my other point, is I say, well, who's voting on the thing? Aside from who's bombing, I think a lot of our armchair fans that are in the 6, 7, 8 or more range, their life's ambition is not to go vote on the popcorn meter at Rotten Tomatoes or the IMDb scale. So here's one thing I would ask everybody within the sound of my video is, if you haven't voted on one or both and you want to say a 7, go say a 7, because that would be an improvement over where it's sitting now, which is like in the 2s and 3s, which is ridiculous. That does not match what I'm seeing and hearing here. I don't care for personal bias or just the skewing of audiences. I tend to think the people I see live, because not everybody, if I see them online, okay, those are people who come for me. If I see people live at an event, especially people I may not know very well, and that's the reaction I'm getting there's 2 feels. Neither one's mathematical, neither one's scientific, but there's 2 feels that this is the system in the game being rigged again by the fact that there are rules and taking advantage of that. So I'm just saying, can the great unwashed go represent at the popcorn meter and the IMDb scale index thingy? My one request for everybody today. That's my call to action. And otherwise, gang, I think that's going to do it. I can't wait to wade into the comments here. And if you're watching me later on YouTube, I can't wait to read your comments too about anything that I've conjured up here. And like I said, the polls are still going. If you haven't followed me on Blue Sky or Twitter X or Instagram or Facebook Trekland, please do so. And please know that anything having to do with Trek, I keep that off my personal page completely. It will be boring to you. So come over to Trekland. I wish I could have 2 personal pages. That's really how I look at it. Facebook doesn't understand that concept, but I just like to at least divide the world, because it's dividable that way in my life. So yes, do that, would you please? And there's still time, if you're hearing this live, to get on the 2 actual metrics that matter on Instagram and on Twitter. Would love to have you follow that. And of course, Like and subscribe, do all the things here on YouTube if you haven't at all yet, and spread the word, boost the signal, and all of that. Otherwise, gang, that's going to do it for me, except to, of course, thank everybody in my Patreon. Look at that. It's simple. It's sweet. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. And the T-tailers, Chuck A., James Kerwin, Diana Hopkins, Halbeard Gunnjonsson, Lawrence Todd, Chris Jiggins, Mitch Keith, Keith Rombach, Josh Patton, Pranakasha Productions, J.R. Poole, Comedy Forecast, and Andrew Jazemski. And our live wires, Gary Williams, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, David Gall, MJ Frug, Chris Garris, Brandon Coles, Dave Gregory, Jesse at Crusher Convo, Donna S. Runyon, and Casey Shafsky. Yes, my simple Patreon that you can jump into. Look at this. It's only $5, $10 a month. I've kept it simple in the current iteration of things. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. I really do appreciate the help that gives us. It's paying for at least some of the basics here of Restream and some of the other platforms that need the signal boosting. And it's a Tuesday. Hey, we are winding down the end of the 14th season on the Trek Files, my podcast from Roddenberry. If you have not gone over to see or listen, take a listen, please do. You can get it everywhere. I appreciate the socials here, but best of all, please go check out thetrekfiles.com. That is our direct link to our page on Memory Alpha, where we've partnered now for close to 3 years, putting up the episode every week with an audio player and with hot links back into Memory Alpha. And best of all, the documents of the week. It's the only podcast with homework, but it's harmless. I promise you. This week, we look at the documents from TNG. We look at script pages from TNG season 4, 5, after Brannon got in and created the Breen. Not much to create, just a mention. Mysterious mentions. And how it got picked up and finally fleshed out, not just through the DS9 appearances, but in Discovery, big time. Discovery's last season. Carlos Cisco, a young writer on Discovery who came up from being a writer's assistant. Great guy. He works in gaming too. He is my guest again, and we talk about going back and finding the Breen and how it affected Discovery. So there you go. A true past to present, what we love to do on the Trek Files. I really hope everybody goes over and listens to this. We've only got a couple of slots left in the year. We've got some wonderful wrap-up guests lined up for the weeks after that, fingers crossed. And then we'll be in our hiatus looking at our 15th season. I really appreciate all the love that everybody shows the Trek File. And I appreciate all the folks who have jumped into the Mission Log Roddenberry Patreon so that you can be part of the Discord for all the Roddenberry podcasts. But that includes the Trek Files, because we now have a dedicated community meetup on Discord with cameras. Everybody can talk. Oh, yesterday we went way over time. Every other Monday at 4 p.m., so it'll be 2 weeks now. Actually, it won't be, because I think we'll be cruising. And yes, we're going to have to jiggle the schedule for that. I'll have to put that out and figure out what we're doing. But if you could, $1 a month is the minimum to join their Patreon, which is separate than my Patreon. But when you join the Roddenberry Mission Log Patreon, you got access to all, not just the podcast message boards and their groups. There's a lot of fans that have some specialty meetup groups, and they're there too. You get a lot for your $1 a month, your $1 a month. And actually, the Trek Files bunch has been growing. There's always at least 8 or 10 folks every other Monday who are there just talking. We start with the episodes, and then, I don't know, if there's anything else happening in Trek world, we kind of gravitate there too. Listen, everybody, thank you so much. If you're leaving us now, YouTubers, I'm looking at you. Please, it'd be great if you could join us live. It's 1-ish Pacific and 4-ish Eastern, but that means that it can be 9-ish in Europe, in the UK, and 10-ish in Central Europe. To join us here every week on Trekland Tuesdays live. I'm going to have to interrupt the flow here for the cruise as well, but I'll let you know about that next week. Meanwhile, yes. Please, there's spiking runs out there. Please, please, please stay healthy, do all the things. Please, I say this way, stay awoke, check the sources, and truck well, everybody. All right. Back scroll. Yes. Mountain Man Larry has gone back in the cave for another couple of months. I finally, it's an effort to get my hair cut now. Unless I just I don't want to leave my guy that I've had for 20 years. So yeah, I'm as bad as old hens at the beauty parlor. And I say that lovingly. Yeah. Good to see everybody though this week. Yes. Hi, Robot KW1. Can't find me on Facebook, but here I'm on YouTube. Okay, cool. Were you on? That's interesting. I should be on Facebook. If you're on the Trek, not my personal page, but on the Trekland page. Oh, there you go. Maybe you get it worked out. I could not agree more, my figure. Thank you, Ed. Wait, I'm talking about Law and Order today. Law and Order, Starfleet Academy unit. Chung chung. Where did that come from? I don't know. Hey, Scott. Hey, stranger. Yeah, well, comedy, you weren't the only one today. Everybody here. Nard is with us early from the Outback. I say early, a year ago. Yay. Glenn. Hey, Glenn. Howdy, sir. And I saw your comments on wherever I put this out at different places too. A Porthos is for life, not just for Christmas. Okay, Sean, that's interesting. When it comes to negativity, unfortunately, there's always going to be individuals who will hate blindly because they can't accept change. Yes, but why that attracts them to Star Trek, I don't get it. Oh, comedy, you're not baffled. You have tried to engage with several and find it a mixed bag. Some are just going along, but when we talk, I've even gotten one or two actually at least to watch the show. See, you never know. Just imagine, gang, if we never had social media and fandom was still about your local circle of friends that you met up with to go see movies, or you went out to the bar with, or you gathered in your favorite little hamburger joint, or you organized a club, or you all went to cons together. I mean, just think about if all of fandom could be reduced back to that 70s, 80s, even 90s model of fandom. And it was a big deal to write somebody across the country and get an answer back, especially if you had enclosed a SACE, self-addressed stamped envelope. Just imagine that's still my model, because that's the human contact base level model before everything got extended. Narda, I'm really enjoying Starfleet Academy. I know it has some problems, but it's such a fresh take. It's not trying to copy something that lives in the past. There you go. Oh, Narda, you're so weird. If the future isn't completely covered and Squidward isn't on the floor, then is it really the future? Okay. Oh, you said you enjoyed it from episode 1. All iterations have issues, but you can look past them. Oh, Christoph, that's interesting. Maybe it's a geo block, or maybe it's expired by now. That's interesting. Maybe it's somehow expired. I don't know. Somebody else tell me. I don't think I can tell because it's me. Duncan, Idaho 1. Bad writing is bad writing, Larry. It's not political. I can tell a way difference. It's not just writing. Sometimes it's actually like, how are you going to frame the story? And I have differences. I have an issue with this next one coming a little bit that way. But Duncan, the thing is, I can tell that you're addressing me by name, so I think you're a human being, and so that goes a long way to hearing your critique. Yeah, I just come back at you and say, can you see a difference? Not even just a straight progression, but so many people answered these attempts at a survey with talking about the 4 episodes individually. That's the next thing I would ask you is, do you see an individual difference from show to show? Because part of that's the shows trying to get their footing. Oh, okay. Cool, Larry. What are you saying? My background. Oh, you mean back here? Oh, okay. Narda, thank you very much. I clicked you off too fast. Thank you. It's just, T Public offers the items and we just put the logos out there and a few special things. So yay, Scott. And thank you, Narda. And you're probably having to pay stupid postage and tariffs into Australia, right? I thank you for doing that. It's probably a lot harder than it was a year or two ago. Okay. There you go. See, Duncan, my first response is, have the writers done that or did the burn do that? I know. The writers are writing about the burn, but I'm glad to see something fresh happen. I want to see a lot more, but I'd be curious to hear what you think has been unforgivable. What has been done? Are you talking about the triad house and the multiple parents? Are you talking about the hunt versus actual combat fighting? I've seen all that raised, and I get it. Hey, Brad, first time with us. I don't know, but yeah, and it was done that way in 2017, 2018, and the residual has been around, but I think that was mainly when Trek spikes, when there's a new one or something that's a new paradigm, like 2017 was. This is a new paradigm, and because Strange New felt like it had already been set up by Discovery, so you kind of had a vibe for what it would be like. I'm a lovely man. Okay, Duncan. Okay. Interesting. No, I guess you really are human, huh? Christoph, what are you saying? Fast forwarding is a bad idea. There's nothing wrong with the Klingons in Academy. Also, 800 years. Think about humanity 800 years ago. Hey, Sherry. You're still watching and still processing episodes and have to go back and rewatch because I missed bits. Oh, well, listen, the audio, look, I'm watching the first time on screeners and the audio is so muddy on the screeners. There's times I make a note just to go back and listen at midnight Wednesday for this word or this phrase. But I'll listen 3 or 4. But that's the screeners and the audio mix isn't finished. And 95% of the time, it's not an issue. It's just you're supposed to be watching early and it's hard, especially with new voices and these young actors who aren't maybe enunciating with 20 years of stage and TV training, and the alien words and all the accents. And yes. Okay. There you go. See, even more human. I know you're a real human being. Oh, Sherry, it's set in the 50s? Is that Nito Mosquito? That was the big phrase when I was in first grade. Neato mosquito. Oh, you noticed this, huh? Especially in the last 2 or 3 years? Wonder why. Oh, too bad, Christoph. The number of TNG era fans angry at Academy is not as small as I'd hope. I'd have to unfriend one for my mental sanity. Duncan, you are not alone. A lot of people didn't hate. There was some hate on DS9, but a lot of people just ignored it. And look, a different era, a different way of viewing completely changed that. Good point. I don't think we're quite at the screaming at Will Wheaton on stage when he was 16 level, which was stupid. And I knew it at the time. Like people that thought they were like, what you're so, I could say ignorant, but you're so unsavvy. People screaming at Will Wheaton when he's 16 that you don't know that he has no control over his part. You should be screaming at the writers. But then, of course, they're not actors, so they're not on stage getting paid to be here, which is also wrong. Hey, Glenn, there you go. Interesting parallel. Of course, there'll be a lot more TNGs than there will be academies. This is my single biggest complaint. That, and sometimes the varying formats that I don't mean like, is it a detective story or is it a court drama? I don't mean that. I mean just the way the framing of the story is. Yes, Kareem is the one who was on the float at New Year's Day and did so much. I'm sure he got paid for it, but he did so much social media posting before people even knew what he was or what he was playing, which is funny now to go back and look at. It's cute, but he was just infectious and all over the place and did such a great job. I hope people go back and look at what he, before it all, disappears down the time hole. Oh, Narden, nothing on Blue Sky for you, huh? Very dull. Okay. Well, Joel, I wish you were there too. Hi, Chris. Good to see you. Chris, you've been all over the place lately too. Hey, Brad, the 21st century colorful metaphors do not work for me either. It's unexpected, unnecessary, and takes me out of the drama. That's my main gripe. And again, Brad, I'm not even talking about the colorful metaphors. I'm just talking about the phraseology when it's not cursing at times and the idioms, I'm like, wow, did that really survive? I'm like, we use phrases from the Bible and Shakespeare, but people don't realize they come from the Bible and Shakespeare. But we're not talking about, stoning slaves or, I don't know, things like, look a gift horse in the mouth or sleep tight. People use them. They don't know the origin. So I get that. But when it's almost a constant. Yes, Christina Chong is on our list. Simon Pegg and his dad played Simon Pegg. Mark Shepard played, yes. That's off. Yes, and a lot of little one-offs as well. Hi, Pedro. Hey ho. Rose, will I do highlights of crossover Star Trek Who on Instagram or YouTube? We will record it. I don't know if we'll get it to be videoed, but we'll at least audio record it for an audio. And I'll post it on my channel later. Oh, hi, Lori. Are you new to us on Tuesday? Maybe. If either way, yay! Thank you for dropping by and sounding off. Very cool. Very cool. If you want to bring the house down at the con, use the line, lots of planers have a California. Okay, is this a Who reference? Well, my good buddy James, who is an even bigger Who fan than a Trek fan, and he directed Star Trek Continue and oversaw scripts. If I say this to a huge Who fan, will they get it? Okay. Okay. Well, it's just being reasonable. It's just being human in a human franchise. Like, what's the point of being here? The Time Reavers, the Loom, the Time Reavers from Prodigy were confirmed by Aaron to be ripped off from a Doctor Who episode. Oh my. Well, how many people have ripped off Trek? So I think it all works out. Academy is a show. Langoliers did it first. Okay. Star Trek is a big tent, as big as Star Wars. All are welcome. Well, you would think so, Duncan. You would think so. What do you say? Christoph, you don't think anyone in the 21st century has experienced 32nd century high schools or colleges? You seem to have inside information. Uh-huh. Sure, Academy will have its fans. You don't doubt it. Apparently, it already does. It's just interesting this time when people can take advantage of the ways we think about immediate pop culture in real time has been hijacked, and a lot of people confused. Yeah. That doesn't mean all iterations are good. Yeah. Or all episodes are good. TNG and Voyager was great 10 episodes in. Okay, Drew, are you sure you're not looking a little rose-colored there? 10 episodes in with TNG was Angel 1 and Code of Honor, and yeah, a lot of creaky, but that's the point. It's taking time to find itself. There was some creaky Voyager early on too. That part of it was like it just couldn't. How is this different than TNG? Except you're not going to see Klingons and Romulans until you do. Or Ferengi. Oh my! I would just say they were all about the same. The old meme about it takes 3 years for a Star Trek to get good and settled. I appreciate this, Glenn. 8 to 12 episodes every 2 years, less than half a dozen a year, is almost unacceptable. Yes, Glenn, you're part of a big club on this. Do 10 or 15. Well, they'll do 10, but do 15 and spend less. I've heard that yelled. I'm a real person. I am not an animal. Yes, Pedro, I'm well aware of that. Chris, interesting way to put your critique here. If you were to change anything with the show, it would be to remove the cussing, and that is it. But even with that, you've enjoyed all 4. You would remove the skip intro button covering acid names. I know. Talk about left hand and 14th middle hand not communicating there. Oh no, Pedro, off topic. I have no idea what you're talking about. The Box of Delights? Okay. Oh, hey, Myth Duster. Just listen to the Questor Reboot podcast of the Trek Files. I heard the title Questor as a title thrown out in references before the podcast, but I had no idea what it was or what the show was supposed to be about. I had no idea it was a Roddenberry concept about an alien android that's basically described as a Data-like character. No, Questor Data was a Questor-like character, just so you know. Questor is from the early mid-70s. So, yes. Sounds like an interesting concept. I had no idea a pilot was shot and rejected. This was news to me. They had scripts written for the episodes. They had an episode order. And then the network wanted him to get rid of B.G. Robinson, get rid of I said B.J. That's his Jerry Robinson. B.J. was his B.J. was Honeycutt was on MASH. The network wanted him to get rid of the second character and just have it be alone, have it be like a fugitive or a kung fu. And Gene said no. And so they canceled. They went in favor of what was the one they went in favor of instead of Questor? It wasn't Planet of the Apes, was it? The series. We talk about it. But you're welcome. You're welcome. But you've got your data inverted there. Data was Questor was the roots of data 10, 12 years early. Yeah. They've sure been overusing the AR wall and CGI. New Trek doesn't seem to have a stable ship or building layouts apart from the D bridge. Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad to be a nexus of information here. Replying to Glenn, lower budget, great writing and character development and more episodes would be great, in my opinion. Well, Lori, I'm glad you're showing up and opinionating. Yes, again, welcome. You've had commenters on your post call Academy utter poop. It's not utter poop. I'm sorry. I don't mean this as a quality statement overall, but just as a moment in time, Discovery is far stronger than Discovery was coming out of the gate. And a lot of that's because of the chaotic birth that Discovery had. Bewildered by modern Trek since 2009. Joel, I can't tell. What is that? I can't even tell what that is. Okay. Anyway. Oh, okay. Mona's in the house. Here we go. As a general rule, you don't pay attention to professional critics because as a general rule, they hate sci-fi, but maybe they're getting more tolerant. Well, professional critics, or how about professional pop culture sci-fi media critics, genre critics? Oh, critics never liked Tron. Everyone has been trashed. Okay, thank you, Joel. Okay. All you guys going and voting on IMDb and the popcorn meter? Cool. What are you saying? That people not caring when you post Star Trek stuff on your personal pages? Well, it's wasted. It's like I want to focus attention. If I want to talk to old school folks or family or Will Rogers things, it's basically Trek and everything but Trek, because Trek is half or more of my life, and way more the people I come in contact with because of Trek, fans, other professionals. It's way more there than the other. Now, if it's people I know, if it transcends just being Trek and it's people I get to know closely, like people I work with, no matter whether they were people I worked with in news or people I work with in Trek, that's personal page material. But if it's about Trek, and the first year, 2 or 3 of Facebook, you didn't have, that wasn't a concept. And now I wish I could move a few hundred people over to Trekland that won't go. Why, thank you, Myth Dustards. This season of Trek Files has been great. Thank you. I kind of think the last few seasons have been great too. Last year, we sure ended with a bang. We had the last 5 or 6 with different guests. Sure came up. Chris, I had a poll on Instagram and a poll on Twitter. The other two don't have poll mechanisms. There you go. Well, I know, Christoph, actually, that's good, because basically Rod paid for the first few years of all the podcasts out of his pocket. There was no way to monetize them. So I'm sorry for the commercials, but in our state of play right now, it's just a matter of trying to finesse it. And that's John trying to figure out the best way to finesse commercials in. But for the first time, the entire Roddenberry catalog is actually making income and not just being Rod paying for it out of the goodness of his heart, or the company paying for it out of the goodness of its heart. Aha, Myth Dustards, you were listening to the Trek Spurts on yesterday's Enterprise with Eric this week. It dawns on me that there's a whole generation of people that don't even know Eric or his voice after talking about yesterday's Enterprise for years and decades and writing his self-published book about it. Yes. Did they? I'm sure Eric talked about how it was a disaster. They all thought was going to be a bomb because it got bumped up because of Whoopi's schedule, and how all the writers took home an act over Thanksgiving holiday. They had to work over the Thanksgiving holiday at home and then come in and cram it all together. And Michael Piller took an act, but since he was the showrunner, he didn't take a writing credit because the Writers Guild would only let 4 names be on the credits for a script for a teleplay. It's quite the saga of how it came to be and how it was finally brought off. And no one expected it to be any good because of the crammed, chaotic mess of a process it was. And then it turned out to be the first classic of the series. It's amazing. Amazing. Am I going to be cruising with If you mean I'm a guest on the cruise, yes. I don't think I'll be cruising with Shatner like we have our own convertible. Yes, sorry, Christoph. Sorry, Christoph. Thank you for hanging in. Yes, indeedy. Where you are in Florida, it's been a great time to capture the full moon because the humidity is not as high in the sky. Don't tell me the humidity is never not high in Florida. I know better than that. Yeesh, no wonder Florida man is a concept. Everybody in Florida is itchy and twitchy. No wonder the Florida man meme is a thing. Oh, okay. Lawn odor. Yeah. Smells like grass. Downtown Abbey. Yeah. I say very good, Narda. Yeah. What do you say, Pedro? I always say, Larry, today, if you want to leave someone a nasty comment, it's easy for an alt to post on social media. Back in the day, if you wanted to say something you hated somebody, you had to send a letter. You had to be tough fans to live in those days. Yes. And a stamp. See, this is why we have a slightly different. Yes, it's so easy to act on all those things that, the old advice is if you really want to scream and yell and complain about somebody or something, you wrote it down and then put it in a drawer. Well, there's none of that control. And then the next day, think about it. Yeah, none of that. There's none of that now. There's no guardrails. People pop off all the time constantly. And that's one factor in what's going on today. P.S. On me not seeing Insta as a poll, since you had results already, I guess it had expired. Sorry for the noise. No, Christoph. I was trying to, it's been an hour since I was looking at it. It may have been expiring by now. Oh, the review drains you. Well, why else review things if you can't be drained? Hey, John X. I think the poll function is on personal pages, but not on business or celebrity, not business pages, but on branding pages. I would love to have a poll. Yes, years ago, I could put a poll on my Trekland page. Not for the last few years, but that's fine because who watches Facebook anymore anyway? Yeah. Yeah, Pedro, I didn't say there weren't people that dislike modern Trek. I'm just saying when I know they're human, then I'll listen and trust. But I know so much of what passes for traffic, especially on Twitter now, and increasingly on Instagram, sadly, when Instagram used to be the pretty pictures. And a lot of it's driven by politics, but it crosses over. Yep. But again, my clue is it people actually giving reasons and informations, or is it just 5 words? If they just say stupid, or something. More Discovery asswipe trash. I mean, if that's a comment, then you've lost me. Say something. Give me a real critique, and don't just hate bomb. Seeing seasons 3 through 5 of Discovery, and by extension science fiction, as taking place in the Kelvin 32nd century, caused by miscalculation, the Ray Angel suit makes it infinitely more enjoyable because logic and common sense are much more flexible. Okay, whatever boats your float. There you go. 8.4 average for the first 4 episodes. There you go, John. You went to the post office and wanted to send a package to a friend in the UK. Don't think you realized how expensive sending mail was until you went to the post office. And they said it would be $130 to send a package to the UK. Oh, I'll read the rest. Then you went to FedEx for the same package. It was $300 for the same package. Then UPS said they don't do any international packages at the time because the fees to UPS were too high on tariffs. I was like, woo. Well, yeah, however high they are, they're worse now because of what's his face's tariffs. Yes. Yes, and it wasn't just kids. It was a lot of the middle-aged women fan fiction writers. They hated Wesley getting to be a real-life Mary Sue or whatever. Hey, John X, as far as the language, yes, you have a few issues. Remember, we went through 150 years of the burn, 120 years of the burn. Just assume the language devolved a bit. I also remember a quote from Gene before TNG saying he was proud they'd made the language of it more naturalistic than TOS. So there's your trajectory. Well, here's the thing. It's not so much about is it good or bad language, but when you watch this show as a show 20 years from now, is it going to be dated to the time it was made? And that's kind of the, does original series' language feel like 60s? Does 80s TNG, 90s TNG feel like of the time, or does it feel like it should still be spoken? It tends to do a lot with pacing and all that. But anyway, I know some viewers get really annoyed seeing kids in TV shows, whether live action or cartoons. Kids seem to identify with the adults. Again, not my experience. Okay. There you go, Joel. There was an Wesley Crusher die on Usenet. It blows my mind that people had nothing better to do. I've told you my story. My first experience with online message boards, a friend got me on FidoNet or Usenet in 1989, and got me into it, and there was one thread where people were arguing something. And she said, they're arguing, maybe you can help. And I sat down and went, oh, in 1989, in Oklahoma, living. I sat down, I answered, I said, hey guys, actually you're both partly right. It was like you must obviously care about the facts here. And I answered their question. The next time I was over there, I didn't have a modem. The next time I was visiting Mike and Tamara, I went in to see what was going on with that thread, and they totally ignored my answer and found something else to argue about. So that was my first clue what online fandom could be. Yay. Assuming New Trek is Kelvin or even further from Prime makes it enjoying it a lot easier. Maybe TNG fans are not relaxed enough for that leap. Didn't want to call us both old. I think Sean meant planets. Oh, I'm not going to be able to go back all the way and find that. Maybe somebody can refresh this, but I'm not going to check it. Well, Narda, we know you're weird, but anyway, to view Trek through the actor's eyes and through your love and respect of the cast. You didn't like Discovery at first, but you enjoyed the cast and then the show. Okay. We're now in the gonna agree to disagree here. Lots of planners have a California. I missed this. Oh, lots of planets have a north. Okay. And so you said lots of planets have a California. Yeah, that's true. Oh, Pedro, I think there were more than a couple of week episodes of TNG. Yeah. Like every 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 wound up being kind of weak. Yeah. Voyager didn't have any issues with the first 10 episodes. Well, some of them were kind of fluffy and bloated, but okay. But that's fine because, yes, comedy, every Trek has, well, every series has startup issues. Yeah. Even TOS needed 2 pilots. There you go. Oh, really? See, I had no clue. Okay, I'll ask. My referee for all things Doctor Who is James, and I'll ask him. You are correct, sir. Yes, there would have been no name for the character aside from Rick put that name on the door plaque that you saw on the door. It wasn't part of the script at all. B.G. Robinson was a character in a story an actual story that Rick, an illustrator, actually wrote. And that's a factoid that's in the companion. So hopefully it's in Memory Alpha. I am sure they have aggregated that factoid from the companion. Yeah, except the second season got very thin. There were some highlights in the second season. I mean, Cardinal Creek, Carbon Creek, First Flight, but they got very thin. They made fun of Michael Pillar's B Story, but some of those episodes were really thin. And that's when the viewers started going down. Oh, yeah. Paper is dead weight, and it runs up the weight pretty fast. Okay, well, Mona, happy poetry. That seems to be the trend, Derek. And hello, Derek, coming in from Facebook. First time, maybe? If not, doesn't matter. Yay. Familiar with Eric Stillwell from the season 3 TNG special features on DVD. Yeah. Well, I met Eric the first time I was on the lot at Paramount after a tour, I think. I think so. Yeah, I met Eric in 1989 when he was still the script. He was the Lolita before Lolita. Before he went to work for Creation, before he started his own convention company, before he left that and worked for Michael Pillar. Hey, Willie. What? I might be going down Route 66 with him, but what do I know? Shatner cruising. You're paying attention, Narda. Oh, Derek. Don't make promises like that. Have fun. It's a cruise. You paid for it. Your part of Florida is practically Georgia, 20 minutes drive from where the Neutral Zone studios used to be. Oh, well, I used to fly into Jacksonville and drive up to Kingsland. So, yes, you were close to the coast, so the humidity wasn't quite as bad. I will say that. Yeah, I'm kind of sad. Yes, Kingsland is home of the best Applebee's in the universe. I will say that. And many, many pleasant hours in that Applebee's, which is not a sentence you often hear in this time zone frame universe. Oh, that's what it was. Yes, I would. Everybody was stuck in that mess. Yeah. What was 2 hours to go 1 mile? Weave back and forth. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Okay, Christoph, this is a very Will Rogers thing to say. Put a tax on negative comments, and no matter how low, it eliminate the budget problems. Very good. Instagram has Star Trek hate. I thought that was confined to written social media like Twitter. That for the more I know. Well, Pedro, it's amazing how you can be hateful even with pictures and overlay text. But yes, the last year it's driven by politics and a little bit and overlapping culture war. But yeah, Instagram has been soiled. It's still better than the alternatives. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Willie. How people reacted to Jake Lloyd and Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars The Phantom Menace in 99. Yep. Well, okay. What now? Do I remember when Berman and Braga were being called continuity porners back in 02? Now they're probably sucking up to them asking for their return. Oh, yeah. Well, you know the meme with Rick and Brandon as hobos, and one of them has a sign that says, "Will destroy franchise for food." Yeah. Yes. If that had been the outlook of the show from day one, a third to a half of all the disco critiques is the polite word, would not have been a thing. Didn't know the name was reused. Oh my, what name are we talking about? New Trek, Nutrek? Not sure, Twitch, who Eric is. Well, yes, and then we got to be really good friends, and Eric helped Janet pick out our first apartment in when we moved, and we were living right underneath them for 2 or 3 years. And yes, since they retired to France, don't get to see them much anymore, but all the years going on here. What have I heard? Hey, David Harvey. Okay, David, sorry. I'm just asking everybody when they pop up. First timer, lurker, we've met in live. I'm like a blur when I get here sometimes. So I don't want to say anything out of toward, but I'm glad you're popping up. And you're saying, what have I heard about the original Galileo finally going to be exhibited to the public soon? The original Galileo is going to be, well, it was exhibited years ago when they did over 10 years ago when they did the cleanup, and it was displayed in Houston at the Space Center adjoining the museum down there. And then then you had the same thing that happens at the Smithsonian when the Enterprise was down in the gift shop cafeteria in the basement. You have political swings about whether that's of value or not. And the Galileo shuttle was put away, literally, I think, at the cafeteria for a while in this Houston museum adjoining Houston Space Center, Johnson Space Center. And then it was put away even further. And so James Cawley and the Star Trek exhibit got it, and Star Trek Set Tours got it and brought it up there. So yay for that. But it was on public display for several years, and I got to see it about 10 years ago, and then it wasn't. And so now hopefully it'll be on a more permanent display. Texture, baby, texture. Getting to the end of the chat. Yes. Not a crazy question, Westchester Cybersecurity Daily. Ooh, now that sounds like a new hanger on here. Good to see you, West. I do not believe there was ever a hardback. I know that in America there was never a hardback, and I don't think any licensed foreign publisher ever did. Now, some fan somewhere may have taken one, or some library may have got one and hardbacked it, custom in a custom job, but it was never published as a hardback. All right, first timer. Yay. Well, welcome. And as I say, go over and I know you're on Facebook, but please go over to the YouTube and subscribe if you can. Yay. Yes, Galileo will be at Ticonderoga at the Star Trek tour. A bear, 40%. Okay. Yay. Okay. Good. Now you got to tell me where. A con somewhere? What was it? Yeah, Derek, it hit me. I'm yes. And we've been at WonderCon or San Diego, where you were sitting in the row behind me and we had a whole conversation later, right? Yes. And just for the record, I have never seen you that drunk since. But it was that insane crawl to the ships that everybody was on. The celebrities, the band, the cruise employees, everyone was creeping over. Even if you weren't in that group hotel over there. Yes. It's pretty simple, Narda. I don't understand why anybody thought that was going to work, especially with the attitude about visual design. We all have to play stowaway. Now. You'll probably get found out at TSA and then I'd be in trouble. And it would just hold me up and the cruise people would be very mad at me. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow, David. Okay. That has been a while, right? That was in the aughts. Yeah. So Jimmy had died. When was that? That was about 2010 or 2011, because out of that, I got my first invitation to be a guest at Phoenix Comic-Con. Yeah, that was 2010 or 2011 for Walter's Star. Very good. Okay, yay. Well, thanks for finding your way here, man. And if you can find your way over, if you do YouTube, go over and subscribe to me. Even if you don't do YouTube, I'll take anything. Wood 4, Sheep 2, cross streams. Oh, is that? Okay, cool. Okay. Make a great movie or feature-length story to explain how modern Star Trek is so different, revised to what came. Modern as in post-2017 versus 90s and aughts? Or 90s and aughts versus the 60s? Or all of it? I think all of it. Yes. Hey, Randy, I've got an interview with Gene. Lived a long, long time. I've got an interview with Gene from Vegas at my table and his book that he did. Now I got to remember if I actually ever posted it, or if it's still sitting in the can somewhere. There you go. Johnny, speaking of the Galileo being at Houston, Johnny Steverson, my gosh, how you doing, man? I mean, you're operating on Facebook, so I don't know. It's good to see you, sir. Well, oh, okay, yeah. Well, it's oh, good. Well, Derek, it's not a matter of crashing panels. It's a matter of like being a guest or not, because even Phoenix is a bit of a stretch in coming over. So I can't go in the hole on con trips. Well, cool. So Derek, do you know Dr. Dave? I forget now about Roots and everything. You know what? Guys, I'm going to look and see if I ever posted that Gene Winfield interview. I kept wanting to call him Gene Pitney for a long time, which makes no sense because Gene Pitney was a 50s, 60s Elvis era rock and roller. Gene Pitney, did he do Cry? I'm trying to think. Well, sir, if you can get me back in the hosted guest column, that would be awesome. The person that was having me come, the turnover, finally turned over. But all through the aughts, I came out and moderated the TNG cast reunion in 2012, before that was a big thing. And then right after that, Gary Hassan, their agent, went, well, why are we letting this be a free? We should make this that was when they started charging a ticket as a separate event. But at Phoenix, it was a free deal. It was the first time. And those guys don't need a moderator, but I did. It was kind of like a zoo, and they didn't, it was fresh and new. But anyway, it got me coming every year for several years, including the year after pandemic. And then the people turned over and I lost my chain of people due. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I think we really are at the end of the chat. That's awesome. It's good to see everybody Tuesday. So I guess my Instagram has gone, but if you actually still have a connection to Twitter, you can go vote on the actual metric there, and I'll see if anything changes substantially. Or we will get back in the habit of doing these polls more regularly, whether they're in my email or not. Boom. There we go. I tell you what, Westchester, I have told that story a few times. It's been a while. We don't talk about continues much a lot lately, but it's out there. Maybe I'll circle back around and do that sometime. It's kind of funny. And it overlaps stellar cartography, which is amazing. Anyway, it's been good to see everybody today. This has been awesome. So as I leave you here on the live again, I just want to say thanks to all of our Patreon folk. Look at those lovely people. And they're lovely people without having to pay a whole lot, because my Patreon is a simple $5 or $10 a month with the shout outs. And oh my, I do this every week. I've got to get you guys the early links to Portal 47 guest interviews, the behind the sceners, patreon.com/Trekland Live. There we go. And once again, especially it's a Tuesday. That means it's a Tuesday for the Trek Files is out. Carlos Cisco, staff writer, maybe bumped up. Anyway, writer from the last season of Discovery, writer's assistant before that. He climbed the ladder. Carlos was also a strike captain. They called him Captain Cisco back during the strike. That was his name. And he's a great guy. He works in gaming also, designing tabletop games. And he's back with us again for a second time, but talking about the origins of the Breen on TNG and how they took those threads and went ahead and created, as a choice, the species come back finally in a big way for the last season of Discovery, which is one of the best things Discovery did, I would say, finally. I wish Discovery had been first season what it wound up being the last couple. Yes, that's the Trek Files, wherever fine podcasts are caught, or thetrekfiles.com. Check that out too. You can still like our old Facebook page. It's all still good there. Gang, I am still looking forward to a 60th anniversary year. If you're in LA, get a hold of me for a Trekland Treks day tour that we designed together. It's what you want to do. I make sure it works, and then I'm your concierge for the day. Check it all out at treklandtreks.com. And yeah, the socials. Woohoo! I'm actually still on Twitter X and Blue Sky. It's Larry's Trekland on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you're not already on YouTube and done it, please go over to YouTube and like and subscribe. We're creeping up our subscribers. I got into it late. It's more than just a free server for your blog video. At least that's what it used to be. And Portal47.net, your backstage pass for more in-depth Trek. Let's see. This is week we're back. We're resetting for February. So this week is our Ask Dr. Trek Roundtable for the Prime America side, Portales. Next week will be the Europeans. Our guest this month is coming. It's a full package every month in Portal 47. Check it out, would you please, and see if you want to dive in and join us with us. It's the best deep dive into Trek, and I've been doing it for 10 years before all these Johnny-come-latelys with the backstage folks and the talk about how the industry affects the history and the currency of Trek. But here I am with you. I'll be back next Tuesday. After, don't forget, Second Opinion is coming out this weekend for this ballyhooed 5th episode that's been talked about for a long time. Can they actually pull off a bubbly, mostly positive reviewed show from everybody twice in a row? I say mostly. The vast majority of folks, I think, enjoyed episode 4 most of all. I did. Not that the others were trash, but as there are bricks laid in the foundation of this series, and the tone and the vibe and the characters settle in, will episode 5 continue that trend? The first pictures are out. and they tell you very little about what the thing is going to be about. I can't wait to see the reaction to this one. And once again, there's going to be more than one level of reaction. One aspect of this episode is going to grab all the headlines, but there are wrinkles. All right? Yeah. Anyway, it's good to see everybody again. It's public knowledge. The writers of this episode coming up are Kirsten Bear and Tawny Newsome. This is Tawny's episode to write for the first season. So just putting that out there. Along with Kirsten Bear. We will see everybody next week. And then I'll announce what the cruise era changes will be. Otherwise, thank you so much for being there. You can still go over and vote on my little poll on my quiz survey on Twitter X. Follow me all the places, especially on YouTube. And I guess that will do it, gang. All righty? Yes, indeed. Thanks, everybody. But please, take care of yourself. Stay healthy. Do all the things. Stay awoke. Check the sources. And trek well, everybody.